the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. My name's Elly Greening.
And my name's Sandra Stewart.
On this podcast, we will be interviewing some of the UK's greatest tech leaders. We'll be discussing war stories, battle scars, and their learnings from their journeys.
Hopefully, you will pick up some great tips, learn from others' experiences, and have a good laugh along the way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. So this week, we've got a fabulous guest. It's Felix Danczak, COO at Zephr. Felix is the COO at Zephr who studied at Cambridge, worked in Canada, and worked his way up through a number of strategic and leadership consulting roles to become C-level. Zephr create personalised, fast, fictionless subscription experiences. We came across Zephr as one of the leaders within the business was listed in the Tech Top 100 2020 list. So Sandra got in touch with Zephr directly and said, it sounds like a fantastic business. We'd love to get some more information about it and get you on the podcast. And Felix has kindly been nominated to have a chat with us today. So hi, Felix.
Hi, nice. Thanks for having me on.
Nice. Hi, Felix. You all right?
I'm very well. How are yourselves?
Good. Yes, very good. Although it looks like we might be getting snowed in at some point. Got about 5 inches here.
Like nature's own lockdown, right? Don't go outside, don't leave, don't travel.
Yeah, don't go anywhere now. That's it.
That's it. Fantastic. I spoke with Sybil, I think it was back in like early December now. I understand that she's volunteered you for this podcast, but she said you had lots of interesting learnings and experiences to share with us. So I'm really looking forward to hearing some of that bit later on. But to start with, it'd be really good to just kind of, I guess, set the scene and give us some context and the listeners and viewers a bit of context around you, where everything, where it all started, how you started in your journey to get to where you are today, and then I guess a little bit about the business, the company as well, where you are today.
Sure. I've had a bit of a strange career. I was told by a recruitment consultant that I was utterly unhireable.
Really?
Yeah. They were like, no, you will never be able to place you. You don't have no CV. I was like,
oh my gosh, that's brutal.
I take it as a badge of honor. It's like I've done weird things, and that's fine. I think where I am now is a testament to the fact actually you can do a bunch of very weird things, and it'll still be okay in the end. Like you don't have to like follow a straight career path, kind of climbing a particular ladder, or go off into the weird stuff and see what happens. I left university and I left university, and this is going to date me for some listeners, I guess, but just at the time when the phone hacking scandal was massive. And there were a couple of celebrities were speaking out again, and quite rightly, against the phone hacking scandal, but they were all making like really kind of useless statements. And I remember watching TV, looking at, I think it was Hugh Grant, and there was about a 48-hour period where he could have said anything. He could have said, I want to meet the Queen, I want to shut down the Sun, I want to, I want no more tabloids. And like the world would have gone, yes, we'll do anything. And in the end, he sort of said, I just want people to stop hassling me and my family, which is totally fine. But like he had this opportunity to like make a huge change. And I remember sort of realizing, I was like, well, that's because he's an actor. He's not a politician. He's not a celebrity. He's not a thinker. He wasn't prepared to make these changes, right? Or to say something because he didn't know what to say. So I left university and set up my own business, trying to help celebrities, senior leaders that weren't politicians, and give them some of the tools that politicians had. Like, because politicians, I'm sure they're all very smart people, but they're just humans, right? But they have a whole coterie around them of other people kind of advising them, helping them, supporting them, that make them look way better than they are. Although Bojo definitely needs a haircut, but still. Love it. I feel like he must muss it up on purpose. Like before he comes on stage, you're like,
I know.
I set that up. I convinced 2 of my friends to give up stable jobs in management consultancy to come and run it with me. Fools that they were.
Wow.
And we
it's a
ran
big, bold move, isn't it? That like fresh out of university, setting up your own business. That's amazing.
Yeah, one of them I don't really speak to that much anymore. Strong move. One of them.
Oh, well, you live and you learn.
Exactly. One of them remains my best friend, but I think it was.
So it's kind of like PR then, but it was, I guess,
that
PR.
was the goal. It was like, you should. Our unofficial tagline was, "We'll make you smarter than you. We'll make you look smarter than you really are." We never said that out loud, but we were like, look, you need people.
We could do with a bit of that sometimes.
Yeah, I think we all could.
I could. Maybe someone should start that business again. I'd hire them. So I ran that for a couple of years and then sold it to a larger PR firm, a guy called Matthew Freud, who runs Freud, which is a big PR firm based in London. And then I ended up being his kind of special advisor, doing much the same thing actually for some of his high net worth clients and private clients over the course of the next 3 years, kind of giving them, insight analysis, not really PR, but more like almost strategy and research. And after about 3 years, it was a wild ride. I did some crazy, insane things at that organization. It's a PR. I think PR is a much maligned industry, actually. In some ways, it's just getting things in the newspaper, but there's so many more unusual things, like building 100 snowmen outside Davos to represent world climate change, and having to do it in like 3 hours so that Bill Gates could turn up. Some very strange.
Wow.
Long time ago. Then I left and I set up a strategic consultancy for tech firms, particularly because I've always been into. I'm a classic boy nerd. I've always been into tech in all its forms, and really the tech industry in London was really beginning to kick off. And I went, there's loads of startups here who all need like a little bit of support in how do you talk to your VCs or your investors and your your employees or the market, like what you've got this great. All too often someone has a really great idea, they've gone away and built a bit of it, but they don't know how to talk about it, they don't know how to communicate it, they don't know how to
it's all about the delivery, isn't it? And that communication piece is crucial.
I completely agree. And I think actually tech is 90%, maybe not 99%, but say like 90% communication delivery, because often you're describing something complex, right? Or net new, and people are like, why do I even need this thing? I think that's one of the problems at Zephr, or concerns, things that we're working out at Zephr now, is it's quite a net new concept, and so explaining it to people is half the battle. So I set that up, ran it for a few years, and I ended up 3 years, and I wound up working for a company called Signal, which is still around, very successful. We went through its Series C last year, goes great guns. Now I joined, I was employee number 31, I think, or 32, and was there for just over 3 years, helped them take it to 150 people across 3 countries, and that was a kind of PR tech company, so it was like a little hybrid for me. And that was an extraordinary ride. I've never seen a company grow. It was my first experience of SaaS, like high scale SaaS. I learned so much, some good, some bad, like what to do, also sometimes what not to do. And what
would you say was the sorry to interrupt, I'm just interested because obviously we want to try and share learnings throughout this, and you said that you learned so much. What would you say was one of the learnings that would be a good one to share with others?
The first one, I think, and I think it's probably true for every particularly tech company, but do your research and then pick a direction and stick with it. It's very easy, particularly early on, to go with your gut feel, because there aren't that many of you, and you're running at 1 million miles a minute, and you're trying to get money in the door, and that seems really important, and you're building the tech, and that seems really important. But it doesn't take very long to, there are lots of bright young grads out there, I was one, who, to employ them for a smaller period of time to research the market you want to go into, top to bottom, not market size, like what kind of person works in that market, what are their needs, what are their pain points, and you can do that in like a month if you're dedicated with it. You put a couple of people on it, it's not expensive, you don't need lots of like people who've been doing this for years and years and years. But once you have that, you're going to be in such a better place to be able to go, okay, this is the product we're going to build, and we're going to build it for a year, or these are the functions we're going to build, and we're going to follow these people, this audience. And I think, it seems like a truism, pick your audience, build features for them, and off you go. But it's very easy to kind of go, yeah, we're building for these people. and you haven't really done any research into who they are, what it is they want, and you end up selling your product rather than solving their problem. And I think that's time and time again, I've seen that in multiple startups, certainly in ones I've worked for, even today in the company I work for, and we're not perfect at it by any means, but it's all too often without that research and data, it doesn't have to be numerical, it can be anecdotal, you end up selling the thing you think you want to sell rather than the thing people want to solve their problem. And it's super common. And it's easy to get stuck in that loop, I think.
That's really great.
It's a difficult one when you're that small as well. You just get pulled, you end up getting involved in so many other things, and it's but it's like you say, it's having that, if you have that structure and focus and do the research to start with and kind of slow down a bit, then you're probably going to get, well, you will get more out of it longer term, won't you?
I think so.
Yeah, that's hard for startups as well, isn't it? Like what you've mentioned there about that clarity of vision and end goal is so important. But when they're projects like passion projects, which they usually are, it's easy to get caught up in the moment, isn't it? Like Sandra, how many times do we do it? Like a new idea and it's the next big thing in recruitment, and then we've completely changed direction and we're constantly like reining ourselves back in. But I think, it's easily done. I think
it requires a lot of discipline, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's difficult.
Discipline, 100%. I think, really is a key word that isn't talked about enough in startups. Often people talk about financial discipline in tech. They're like, no, this is the budget, here we go. But all too often it's easy from a product or commercial perspective because you need to get some money through the door or whatever it is, you're like, oh, it's fine. Like we'll let it go this once. Like we'll let it happen. And you become undisciplined very, very quickly. Or it's not business critical, so we won't do it right now. And you're like, actually, like trust your own vision and trust the steps you're going to take to get there. I think it's, and it's easier said than done. Like, hey, like I tell myself to have discipline every year, and every year I get derailed by something. But I guess ask yourself the question: is it business critical? Like, is this going to change the business? Because if it's not, why are you doing it? I guess.
Agreed. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted. So where did you go from Signal?
To me, talking about me is much less interesting. No, so I ended up, I was at Signal for 3 years, and I saw my time there, and I had a wonderful time. But then I had all these learnings like discipline and other management ones we should talk about later. But I really wanted to do it for myself. Like I wanted to be making the decisions rather than advising. And I've been chatting to a guy called James Henderson for a little while, and he founded Zephr about previously. And he convinced me, and I convinced him. We were like, it was sort of a match made in heaven over a couple of breakfasts. And we were like, I want to come and make the decisions, and he wanted someone to come and help make him decisions. And I really believe in the product. It's a tool that allows really any organization that sells digitally. We focus on subscriptions, but it doesn't have to be, to hyper personalize your offering. Your product in real time based on the characteristics of the person viewing the web page.
Cool.
That's very cool. I undersold it when I bigged you up at the start. I definitely undersold it. That's really cool.
I think it's cool. I mean,
I do too.
Because I think one of the things that you sent through beforehand, a couple of questions to have a think about, and one of them is like the future of tech, right? And the hyper personalization of products and services is coming. Like eyeballs are so valuable now that when you have someone's attention, you need to maximize the time you have in front of those eyeballs. And that doesn't mean showing them one package or the classic choice of 3 where everyone picks the middle one. Like you need to give them something that's going to be right for them at the right time, built for them. Otherwise, there's so many other products, they'll find something that fits them better. I think we're about to see it in streaming, for example. For so long, Netflix was it, you buy Netflix, well, you don't buy Netflix. You buy, that was it. Like that was the choice, really. Maybe you could have the 2-screen option, but really, it was $8.99 a month, or don't buy it. Your call. But now there's Netflix, there's Disney Plus, there's Peacock, there's YouTube has a premium subscription. There's so many that I think we're going to start seeing. Do you want the Netflix Kids subscription, like just for the kids program, or just do you just want to watch Queen's Gambit? Okay, it's £1.
I loved Queen's Gambit.
I've got so into chess in the last month or so. It's terrible.
Have you?
I've become a total you know, yeah, my whole house is just like, I'm constantly on my phone, just like playing another.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's really cool.
Fantastic.
So how long have you been with Zephr for now then?
What day is this? It's all the same. We've been in lockdown for so long. 15 months, I think. Just a year, about a year and a half. Yeah.
Fantastic, brilliant. And how's that journey gone for you? Because I think when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, it said you'd been there about a year and so what, year and 3-4 months or something. Obviously not long after. I'm assuming you started back end of the year before. So I guess you'd have been in post for what, 3-4 months, and then COVID hit.
Yeah, that was
how is that? Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out how that journey's gone for you at Zephr, and I guess any like pain points that you've experienced, any kind of problem areas, challenges, and that'd be really interesting to just discuss those and what you've done about them.
So not only did obviously COVID hit, we also went through a funding round through the entirety of COVID, which, you know, is usually, you know, highly intense. You know, as a leadership, you're constantly going and meeting VCs, having coffees, like private conversations. No, can't do any of that. So we did an entire fundraise, you know, end to end, from, you know, first deck through to getting the money in the bank without ever meeting a single investor face to face. We now have 2 new investors, one in New York and one in Amsterdam. I've never met them. I've had phone calls, but I've never shaken their hand, which is weird when someone's giving you millions of pounds.
Yeah.
It also makes it a bit awkward when you meet them at the end. Like, you know, when you really get to know someone, and then when you finally meet them in person, there's like the first couple of minutes is a bit awkward. Like, you know them really well, but you've never properly met them.
Yeah, this happened to me just before Christmas. And I got a phone call, and it, came up, one of my VCs phoning me on Christmas Eve. And I was like, like, you never want a Christmas Eve phone call. You're like, what's gone wrong? And he was just wish me happy Christmas. Because, I'm one of his team now, as it were. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess, like, yeah, we know each other quite well. Like, it would never, like, I think it's going to be strange meeting them when we do. Who are they? What do they do?
Yeah.
But Cove, to your question, we're lucky, right? Because we're a SaaS product, so we don't need to be physically in an office to sell or to build, like a lot of it can be done digitally anyway. So we took the plunge very early and went full remote. We were like, look, clearly this is here to stay. Let's not try this hybrid model. Let's all go remote. I gave everyone in the business 250 quid to set up whatever home of expenses to set up whatever home working scenario they wanted. Bought everyone a Zoom account, all the standard stuff. And then it's been a learning experience. Initially, because we weren't growing the team, it was actually not too hard, right? Because everyone already knew each other. They'd been in the office together. We had to have more daily stand-ups or standing meetings where people could come in and out, or if you had a problem with this, or you could come in and out. I had like every week I would have a 2 or 3 hour slot where I would just be on my Zoom, and if anyone wanted to, it almost like open door, as it were, if
That's nice.
Where if people had a question or just wanted to chat or anything, and we had a weekly virtual pub, because everyone knew each other. We were quite cohesive as a unit. Since raising,
how many did you have? How many staff did you have there?
About roughly 22, 23,
right,
depending on quite.
And did you get rid of your office, or?
So we were locked into a contract until kind of September time anyway.
But that's not too bad then.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad at all. Say it quietly.
I know quite a lot of businesses that exited out of their contract and have just gone fully remote. We've kept it for now. We've kept a reduced office. Like we've cut it from like 25 down to 10, I think, because we have some. I mean, obviously we're in full lockdown now, but some of our team, we did a whole bunch of surveys. I think I chatted to everybody for at least an hour at some point, and people said they really would value the ability to go in like 1 day a week, just really for mental health reasons, just get out of the house, go somewhere else. And so what really organically what ended up happening was like the customer success team all sort of agglomerated around a Monday.
and today we'll come in on a Monday. And like some of the product team sort of came in on a Thursday, and the sales team sort of did a Friday, completely organically. I didn't specify it at all, but they ended up kind of coming in one day a week, still socially distanced and spaced, but that kind of worked. It's been a lot more difficult since we raised the money, because we are now 42 or 3. So I think there are now more people in the company who have never been to the office than people who, right? So that's a whole shift, really. And that's been a little harder. We've had to work at culture much. Yeah. It's something I worry about, right? I think it's, you asked about, failures and things that I've, God knows I fuck up plenty of the time, but it's very easy when we're all on these screens to think of the world like around here and not what we haven't done enough kind of internal cultural stuff.
That's the thing, like, how do you continue to grow the culture? And obviously, by the time that your business had gone into full lockdown, you probably hadn't quite got that culture embedded into the business. You were still working on it, so that must be a really big challenge, and I think it would worry me as well.
It is something I really worry about, and anyone listening, if you've got answers, like, send them on a postcard, please. It's really hard. I don't have it. Like, I'd love to say like, oh, I did this solution, and the answer is actually I think I failed. In some ways, I wasn't, because I was focused on some of the fundraise, and it's so easy to get, you put your blinkers on, head down, particularly when it's dark outside a lot. We haven't done enough team activities. We have these, we do bi-weekly calls with everybody, and everyone chats, and we meet the new starters, and we like kind of team town hall style meetings, but that's not enough. And I think particularly, I don't know about you guys, but just in the last couple of weeks post Christmas, I really felt like a loss of motivation. I've been like, I'm bored of lockdown. I'm bored of COVID. This is all somehow the end of the year, even though it makes no logical sense, was like a line in the sand. But obviously that wasn't the case. And now we're past the other side. It's all sort of fucking same.
I think everyone just feels really deflated about it all, because like you say, I do think that there was that whole perception and that, kind of, right, this is it, end of the year, cannot wait till just get 2020 out of the way. 2021 is going to be so much better, and it's obviously not yet.
What I have done,
you two, come on, I need some positive vibes here. Actually, our team, Sandra's on a sabbatical at the minute, so she hasn't seen it so much. Our team, actually, I did worry about that a lot coming in, having a Christmas. We consciously shut the office and closed. Everyone took 2 weeks holiday. We gave them holiday to have a break, because we knew that after the past year, if they didn't have a break, they'd come in with the tank empty already. They'd probably been eating and drinking all Christmas, and then they'd come in at an all-time low. So we consciously said, right, let's everyone take a break for 2 weeks, and when they come back, they'll be revitalized and ready. Albeit not everyone's been able to see their family or have the Christmas they wanted to have, but they have come back less hungover and groggy than usual. And actually, and I think that certainly helped in the mindset. We've got loads going on as a business, but what we really focus on now is team wins, and that's really helped around the cultural piece, because individually the market's not what it was last year, and we're never going to have wins every day. But if we all celebrate our little individual wins and team wins, then it's a little bit more positive. But it is certainly tough, and it's hugely tough, I think, when you've grown by over 100% your team already. So like, you had a culture already with those 20 or just under people, and then by doubling it to over 40, then now that's been watered down, and it's not quite what it was. So it's tough, isn't it? New people.
Yeah, and this is added time. Have you come across the rule of 3 and 10? So I learned about this last year. Super interesting. The idea that every company goes through a big shift in management style when you ever have a 3 or a 1 in front. So when there's 3 of you, when there's 1 of you, you can make all the decisions, right? It's just you. When there's 3 of you, suddenly you have to kind of, it can't be just 2 where you kind of agree. 3 of you sort of like, it changes again, the dynamic changes. When there's 10 of you, suddenly you can't, there's 2 of you can make, or maybe 3 of you make decisions, but you have some people who need to be told afterwards. When you hit 30, suddenly, which is where, then suddenly actually you can't make a decision just by everyone just chatting around the lunch table, because there's now too many of you to do that. Yeah. When you hit 100, obviously it's a whole new kettle of fish again. But the 30 one is where obviously we've just blown through 30. And which means, you know, we've now brought in essentially a management layer, right? That's what you have to do. But that management layer has never met the teams that they manage, or they've come up and now they're managing people and they've never met them. So it's like this added layer of complexity, which is not just there are more of us and we've not met each other, but also the jobs people are doing and they're being managed in a different way. And I think I would say, you know, the teams have handled it superbly. Like the level of forbearance that they have given us, and you know, accepted that everything's not perfect. And I think the resilience of people has been extraordinary. But I do think now, I think leaders, and myself included, have to step up and make more effort. I started doing kind of a weekly half-hour call with everyone in my team, certainly in my side of the business, the commercial side of the business, and in ops, just to chat. Like we don't have to, like, it's not necessarily about work. We don't have to go through your pipeline, or like just as like a window to how are you? You know? That's
a really good idea, actually. Yeah, because we do that, but it's probably a bit more ad hoc and not as
consistent.
Yeah. I think that's the other hard thing, isn't it? Is to get consistency right, which is difficult, especially at the moment, being at home and they're here, there, and everywhere. It's difficult.
Well, sometimes you just don't want to talk at the minute. Like, it's so different, isn't it? Normally, when you come into the office, I personally get my energy from people. Like, I'm a high energy person, I'm a positive person, but I get it from other people anyway. Yeah. But when you don't have that and you've only got yourself, or you're home alone, and I know obviously like your office, you're based in London, and a lot of young people on their own, it's been in flats, it's so challenging, isn't it? So I think it's certainly tough, and I really appreciate your honesty talking about that on the podcast, because it's so easy to avoid like the challenges you faced and the things that you're going through at the moment. So to be able to openly, honestly talk about that's really cool.
It sucks. Like it sucks. Like I like working with people. I like, you know, and I get, you know, I think it's important to have quiet space for private work for sure. But I'm also a high energy person, like, you know, and so is my CEO, and we bounce off each other, and we'll spend hours like whiteboarding and thinking about things, and we can't do that. We've taken to doing, and I think this has worked, and I'm doing it with some of the other team members, is we would have had like a 30-minute check-in on a walk or something. We'll now both go for a walk and do it on the phone, but we're both outside.
Yeah, it's good.
Because it means you don't get distracted. It's so easy on a laptop to be like, oh yeah, I'm listening to you, but I'm also just responding.
BBC News has flashed up and there's a new vaccine. You can't help it, but they do like all the pop-ups and
it's
stuff
so
like that.
Easy, you know, to just respond to that Slack message, or I'll just respond to that, or I'll just scroll through BBC News. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's about giving people your focus. And I think that's maybe another, if you talk about like learnings to take away, one thing I have learned is it's all about focus. It's all about, and I don't mean focus on in one sense, focus on the company goals and keep aligned to that, but also focus on people, like give them your full attention and time. You'll get so much more out of them. They will be happier, and also the company will do better. And at every level, doesn't matter. I think often I've seen it happen where maybe senior leaders don't tend to get involved with like the more junior members of an organization, like the sales development reps, or like the junior customer service people, because they're like, oh, there's a manager for that, and I'm busy doing other important things, and I never do something.
They don't matter as much, but
they would never say it that way. They'd never say they don't matter, but actually that's what gets heard, right? Because you don't spend the time with them. And it's only half an hour. I think, you know, as we grow, that will be harder to maintain. Like if I did 40 half-hour calls a week, that's 2 or 3 days consistently just in back-to-back meetings, and I'm not going to do that. But I do think it's important to have check-ins with everybody, because I think when we're all independent and solo, feeling valued is harder. And I think give people and give our teams the feeling that they are valued by leadership more than anything.
It is so important, and that kind of leads me quite nicely. Your leadership story then, and the experience with that, because it sounds like it happened quite organically. Like you clearly come from a real creative background and with a startup initially, and so talk to us then about your leadership style and how your teams would describe you.
I actually went and asked my teams to describe me for this.
Good.
And They all said the same thing, which is good. So I'm at least consistent. And they all hate me. No. So I believe in autonomy, mastery, purpose, like as a model, and I try and really embody that in the way that I manage. That sounds such a, oh God, I'm turning to one of those people. Hire people who are good at something and then let them do it. And I think your job as a leader is to give them the tools and then get the fuck out. Like, and I've been subject to this in my life. People who want to like manage you and tell you what to do. Like, if you want to hire someone to tell them what to do 24/7, like, get out of Dodge. Like, what a waste of everyone's time and money. So I believe that you hire people and you listen to them. Most of your management should be about listening to what they need, and then commenting and consulting. It's a very consultative approach. I don't really believe in like top-down stuff going. I mean, there are times when that's necessary, like classically, and there are discipline conversations that you're going to have at some point where people need.
Would you say that's always been your style, or is that, have you learned that along the way?
No, I learned this the hard way. So I'm, I don't know if you've come across like the Jungian color wheel thing. It's quite, so yeah, I love it. I think it's brilliant, and I haven't done it yet at Zephr, but I've done it a couple of times, and I think I'm trying to roll it out across the company when I've got some time. But I'm very much like a yellow, red, yellow, somewhere in there. So I like telling stories, and I like and I do like telling people what to do, because my way is the best way, because it's my way. And certainly in my early 20s, because I kind of ran my own company, and then I went somewhere where I had a special advisor, but I had no like hierarchy. Like, I was sort of just someone who did loads of shit. When I went to Signal and I learned I had to manage people kind of for the first time properly, I was terrible at it. It was absolutely terrible. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure they're good at what they do. Can you just get this done? Yeah, well done, thank you. Very much the worst version of the like, be brief, be bold, be gone, like terrible. And I had a wonderful member of the people team called Layla, who pretty much sat me down and went, you can't do this. This is not this is not how you manage. This is not how you lead. And I, all of like 20, whatever it was like, who cares? Like, they just need to get shit done. Like, it doesn't matter. And thank God she stuck with it.
Reminding you of someone, Elly.
Thank God she stuck at it. And because I think probably, I've told this to her before, but I think she's probably had more impact on my professional life than almost anybody else. Because she taught me how to think about engaging with other people and why that matters and why you'll get more out of them. And it is like turning on a light switch. So I usually ended up using the Discovery Insights wheel, because it's, I know what I am. And there's a really great cheat sheet, which you probably don't even have to have done the whole scheme to get it, which is like, if you're a red, yellow, then blue people you need to talk to blue people like this, or you need to. And it was, I laminated it and then sellotaped it to my desk. And every time I was going to speak to another member of my team, I would look at this thing and go, okay, I'm pretty sure they're a blue. It's not foolproof, and that means they will want to be communicated to like this. And the common pitfall is this. And so I would take, and it sounds so prescriptive, but I would take a couple of minutes and be like, okay, how am I going to communicate the thing I want to communicate like this? And it was genuinely transformational, and I am a much better manager and leader, and those two things are separate, but I'm much better as a result, because it's
so fantastic.
It's about focus. And comes back to that question about focus, right? Focus on them. What is it they need? It's not just resources, it's about how you give them your attention and time. People who are more green, they need, like, literally just sitting down next to them is like, rather than standing, like walking past their desk and saying something from like I'm a very tall guy, you can't see on this, but I'm 6'6", so like, if I'm standing, like, it's quite a long way down, and like it can become quite a lot for someone who's sitting down.
Yeah.
And you're very direct, because you're really passionate and energetic, so it can be the way, which is something that I have to be really conscious of, and when I communicate with others, is that the way that I think's exciting can sound quite scary to other people.
Yes.
But for me, that really gets me going and fired up. So I think it's just being conscious and aware of it. And it sounds like Layla really helped you with that. So
and as a consequence, and then when she put me on to this autonomy, mastery, purpose, it's like, your job is to give people it motivates them because it tells them their intrinsic worth is what matters. Like they're valued because of who they are, not because of like the money they're paid. And, you know, you give them ownership over their work. You know, is this, you know, I'll say, can you go away and try and solve this problem or get this thing done? And then they'll come back and say it's ready. And the common thing I'll say is it ready to show me yet? Like, is it ready? And they might be like, yes. But I'm like, is it? And more often than not, they'll be like, I could do a bit more work on it. And I'm like, I haven't even seen it at this point. Like, I've no idea what it is, but it gives them the opportunity to make it as good as they want it to be.
Yeah.
And come back. But I think a leader's job is to get out of the way and direct and prod. You know, I think I always complain now that I never do any work. I remember a time when I would spend all my days like making PowerPoints and doing things and creating documents. I don't get a chance to do that anymore. But I have to remember that as a leader, your job is to help other people do that better.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it's very, very difficult. And again, I guess it comes back to the whole discipline and focus that we've talked about. It stepping back and letting go, I think can be quite difficult for some people. What did your team say about you? It'd be interesting.
I'm literally just getting up the Slack message, talking about not paying attention while speaking on a Slack message. I'm trying to find out exactly what he said, what they said. You're very consultative in your approach. Tell me what you think, and I'll give you my 2 cents in considered response. You cross over a few in a good way, but mainly consultative and supportive. But then at times you can be a bit direct and transparent. Does that help? They're mostly in line.
Well, Layla's going to be impressed anyway when she finds out that you've been invited on. You've been not only invited, you've been recommended for a leadership podcast. So wait till she hears that.
Yeah, I mean, I think she'll be shocked, frankly.
You'll have to tag her into. You'll have to give her if she's on LinkedIn. We'll tag her into the release.
I mean, she's just. I have to say, I tried to hire her, and she's wasn't. She'd actually just accepted another role somewhere about 6 months ago, but you couldn't do better than someone like that as a people hire. She was just superb. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think that's what it comes down to, where it's so often that HR, and I really don't like the term HR because it's so like boxed as a kind of an IT term, but it's very common for leadership teams to kind of look down a little bit on the people function and see it as a something that needs to happen as part of ops. It's like, we need to do some hiring, and we need some processes, and we need to make sure everyone gets paid. And obviously we need like we need a function for people. If there's discipline, there's a problem, you know? And I think we need, the more time you put into people and a people function, I think it can add multiples of productivity to your organization.
Yeah. I think that's beginning to change quite a lot over the last kind of year or two. And I think certainly this year, there'll be a bigger shift. I think a lot of businesses will be putting more emphasis on the people and the people team and growing that out as well. Certainly
in bigger businesses, right? But I think there's no time, it's almost, I think it's easy to go, well, we're too small, we don't really have.
Yeah.
Have someone, even if they're a junior person, you need like someone, even if you've not got that much money, do it early. The earlier you do it.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
And listen to them. Oh my God, listen to them. They know what they're talking about.
Fantastic. What are you? What would you say is your greatest achievement?
Oh my God. I was trying to think about this one. I was like, I really hope they don't ask me this question.
I can ask you something else if you want.
I was like, well, I helped take one company from 30 people to 150 people, and that was quite an astonishing thing to do, on a broader level. But then I realized, I think it's like, I'm not very good at, I talk about discipline, like I have never been very good at exercise. I grew up in a family that didn't prioritize exercise as something that mattered. Like there are some families that are always exercising, and my family just didn't, which is, a choice. And I decided about 3 years ago, I was like, I want to do a half marathon. And, I just...
Oh, which one did you do one?
I did, and I achieved it. And I did it in under 2 hours, which is my goal. I did it in one 59 minutes and 54 seconds. So like, the t-shirt, and actually,
it's under 2 hours. It's under 2 hours.
I did just over 2. I wanted to be under 2, but my my hip started giving me issues, so it was a real struggle. But I did about, I think mine was 2 hours 10.
Well, your achievement is much greater because, you know, I'm tall enough that really it's kind of like five.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, Sandra's like 5'2".
Yeah, you got a lot more points.
3.5.
Yeah,
Hey,
you get a lot more points than I do. But I think actually, on a personal level, I always go, no, because if I can do that, I can go from literally not being able to run 300, 400 meters without being out of breath and like, ow, everything hurts, I hate this, to being able to run 20 kilometers or 21 kilometers. It's nothing to do with business, but in some ways it was a change in mindset about I want to be disciplined about how I approach my life and how I approach, and I can do things if I set my mind to them, even if I'm terrible at them. And learning, in some ways it was like learning to fail, because I couldn't run 5K when I started. And so I'd run 3 and I'd be out of breath and I wouldn't have achieved the 5K that my target thing said I should be achieving. And I hate failing. I hate it. I hate failing so much. I'm bad at it. I get angry and frustrated and difficult. And actually, over the course of 6 months, in some ways, I learned a little bit about it's okay. Nothing happens if you fail. You just fail and you can do it again the next day.
You learn from it, more important.
And you learn what you can and you can't do. And maybe there's a broader learning point in there, snuck in the back, but that actually I learned how to fail. And I think that's really important. Maybe my greatest achievement is learning how to fail. I'm still shit at failing, but I'm better than I was.
I'd love to know. Right? I guess we're soon quickly running out of time. I'd love to know how do you manage the stress of all this? Like, what do you do? What are your tips and tricks for our audience around like managing stress? And you've got a high pressure job. All the funding round last year, that must have been super tough, stressful, let alone during lockdown. Growing your team, scaling up by 100%. What's your secret advice that you've got for us in the audience?
I think there are probably 3 or 4 things. The first one, from a company perspective or a business or a professional perspective, is find yourself a partner, like a business partner, or like a colleague with whom you have no ego problems at all. Someone who you can say, I'm having a shit day, I feel awful, or I'm feeling great today, or you failed in that way, we didn't do this well, we could have done this better, or I could have done this better, and feel completely like, with James, my CEO, I have complete confidence that we are very honest with each other. Like, you know, we've come off meetings and he said, you were terrible in that meeting, is everything okay? But the response is everything okay? Like, not you were shit in this meeting. And similarly, I've done to him, like, you were off in that meeting, like, or you're not, like, we're talking to each other and he's clearly not paying attention. I'm like, James, you know, focus. And that's okay. And I think somehow being able to know that someone else is managing that stress too, because a problem shared is genuinely a problem halved, and being able to share it with someone, I think, is important at any level, whoever it is. Good food, taking the time to cook. Like, I think people who live off they're living off the ready meals thing, I think actually does impact you. I think making sure that you take, especially in lockdown where you're not commuting, so you have half an hour extra minimum, just cook something for yourself. Like, I think take that time. It's almost mindful. Even if you don't like cooking or don't know how to cook, like, pick up a recipe, like, do something. Like, I think it's really helpful. I think good quality food.
Create something as well as good.
Create it, and then drink it with good but not too much wine. That would be like, I think that would be exercise, I think, is really important. I think, particularly in lockdown, getting out of the house. I try and run every day or every other day. It doesn't have to be for very long. Half an hour is fine.
Now it's your thing then, running.
It really is. It's so.
That's so good. Yeah.
Exactly. Where it's become. I'm like, oh, I see the benefit. And then the last one, I think, and this is a bit more like left field, is make sure there is a time every week, 2 hours, where you are not beholden to anybody else, anyone else's needs, anyone else's requirements, anyone else's things. It can be it could be a weekend, could be during the work week, but you do 2 hours and it is just for you. Like, no one is allowed to touch those 2 hours. You're not going to look at you. If you can play video games, you go for a run. You probably not go for a run. You can do something that's just fun for you. You can, read the book you've wanted to read, make a phone call to someone you really care about. It doesn't matter. I don't really care what it is. The key is that you're not doing it for anybody else. You are focused entirely on the things you want.
Having some you time.
That's so important, isn't it? I learned a really good one this week on a conference call that I was on. from a really cool lady called Jess Ratty, who works on marketing in tech, and really inspirational chat with her and got me all fired up. And she was saying, if you're ever struggling, buy some seeds off Amazon and plant something. And she said, literally within a week, within 2 weeks, you can see something growing. And she said, that is like my top tip for lockdown, is to be able to watch something grow is really helpful for people that are struggling. And I thought, it's so simple, isn't it? But actually, that's so true, because you do remember when you used to plant those little potato heads when you were younger, and those little cress. Every day you'd run downstairs and see something new and it would change. And it is actually really cool. So I think I thought that was a really good tip that I'd throw in there as well.
I like it. That's nice. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Get some seeds. You're a fellow plant lover like myself, anyway. I can see.
I'm a nut for. I think greenery is really important.
It's so important to have it in the house, isn't it? So tell us then, like, we'll always finish the podcast with, like, what are you excited about, Felix? What's on the agenda with Zephr and personally for 2021?
Well, it would be remiss not to say I'm not excited for maybe some being able to see people. I'm looking forward to going to a restaurant. That's going to be exciting. Seeing my family. I haven't seen them in a long time now. I think so. On a personal level, I really, really want to go and sit on a beach somewhere in the sunshine and do nothing. Really, really desperately. I think we all.
Where are you going to go? Where are you going to book?
I don't know. I think you know, as long as it's really hot and someone will bring me a pina colada or a Mai Tai, I really don't care. That's very limited requirements, really. But I think yeah. So the end of COVID is not going to go away. I'm genuinely looking forward to not seeing Trump on the front page of my newspaper or every day. I genuinely think we talked about that malaise, like this lack of motivation. I think we're all feeling a little bit, and it's just unbearable. Like it's every day. It's just the same. I'm looking forward to something new,
and different.
Passion, but mainly I'm just looking forward to something new. Professionally, it's going to be a big year for Zephr. I mean, every year for a startup is make or break, right? It's always make or break. Every month is a crunch month. But we are now, like, the sales organization is set. Like, we have some great people doing great work who know exactly how to do it, and I'm really pleased with the team we've built. There are no weak players amongst them, and we've got a really good product that we know how to sell that just is better than what's out there. I mean, of course, I'd say that, but like, it just works. You show it to people, and there's like a wow moment when people go, "Wow, it actually does like what you."
I did it earlier.
Right? That's cool. Like, it's satisfying to finally have got to that point. And I can't wait to kind of, early January, no one's doing anything yet. Like, most people have only just come back from holiday, right? But I'm really looking forward to cranking the wheel and like seeing like just how fast we can run. Like, I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
It feels like we put in all the work. Last year was a hard graft. I mean, it's not
done all the groundwork, and now you can really
building a house, right? Like, building the foundations takes ages, and at the end of it, you feel you still haven't got a house. Like, you've just got these foundations, but then the house can go up really quickly.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I have loved having you on the podcast.
I've loved being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like correlation between your values and your passion to what our business is like at Transition Partners. So I find it really like interesting and inspiring, like hearing your story and spending some time with you today. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If anyone wants to get in touch, are they best on LinkedIn, Twitter?
I do have a Twitter. I don't know what my login though is. So yeah, LinkedIn is good. LinkedIn, or you can email me, felix@zephr.com. But yeah, I mean, please do get in contact. Yeah, I'm always keen for a chat with anyone, really. It's always interesting.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for your time.
There we go. We stopped. Enjoy.
Transition Partners take mental health very seriously. We are now supporting Claro Mental Health Charity, who are local and based in Harrogate. We are working closely with Richard Kenny, who is the IT director at TechBuyer. Claro operates as a commercial workshop making goods for businesses which enable those with long-term mental health conditions to function in a voluntary real work environment. We would love it if you can join us in supporting this amazing cause and charity, and donate what you can. Any amount would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much, and thanks to all our listeners.